everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, and thank you for joining us. Today is going to be a product demo about how Humantelligence can help to build the kind of culture that retains and engages employees. I just want to take the time to introduce today's presenter, Juan Betancourt, CEO of Humantelligence, and with that, we're actually going to jump directly into the demo. So I hope you enjoy, and please let us know if you have any questions that we can answer.
A quick view to the team culture. Once a team has taken the assessment, you can see the behaviors, the motivators, and the work energizers of your team. And so what that does is you can see that this team, for instance, is deliberate. They think things through before acting. They're spontaneous. They have a sense of urgency, decisive, steady. So out of 12 things, these are the 4 or 5 most dominant behaviors. Motivators, the biggest one is freedom. They follow a personal sense of direction. And you can see this for as well work energizers. This team gets their energy from new solutions, working with facts and structure. Again, of about 12 things, these are the 3 or 4 most dominant. You can then click, I won't do that, but you can click here and it'll take you to the deep dive of that with reports and tips as a leader and as an employee, how you fit with that team and how you're different or similar. You can also see pending actions. Our tool is very good, like an action management system, showing you what you have to do for the rollout of the platform for where you are and what usage you're going to have. So instead of a consultant in a workshop where you're sitting with someone, this is all automated with videos and learning worksheets where you can learn and then have your goals and progress be measured, and it shows where you've completed and what you've completed and what percent. In this case, I just started, so it's only 2%, goes to 100. It'll show you who you're connected with at the company to get the results about those people. So you can click here and see those connections. I have 101 now. You can add people here in the search field and then look at any one person, and it's alphabetical, but you can then search for and see what people's personas are, what that means, how similar they're or different here, 70 versus 40. And you can click on or off collaboration tips to see, have emails sent to you that tell you how to collaborate better with that person, kind of tips that you get on a weekly basis. That's the connections. You can also ask people for feedback if you've just completed a project with them or working with them. You can see collaboration tips. These are tips by person, your collaborators, and you can click on or off, and every week it'll give you tips. For example, for me, if I'm about to embark on a new project with Evelyn, or we're onboarding her and she's a new colleague on my team, or she's a subordinate, I'm her boss, whether it's very similar 81 or less similar 34, if I click this on, you get up to 5 people at any one time where I can pick the day of the week, and every day, every week, one day a week, get tips on how to motivate, influence, and communicate and work with that person. So it really helps take a 6-month process of getting to know each other down to maybe 6 weeks. This is the homepage. Now I want to take you into specifics. Talent insights. This is for individuals, leaders, and the entire organization. Here are the results for the personality test, the assessment. Again, this is a summary page that shows very quickly a summary after 12 minutes. It'll show my personas, and we have up to 20 personas that our IO psychologists created related to the work environment. For example, scholar, supporter, maverick, what each means. It shows that I, for instance, am 42% maverick, explains what that means. I follow a deep personal sense of direction and challenge existing methods. I'm an architect at 35%. Okay, I'm an excellent listener and have the ability to calm those who are overly upset. I'm also a helper at 23%. I'm very sincere and generally help enjoying others. It'll show me quickly my communication tips, things that are going to be exposed to other employees through email and through that collaboration tip software. These are the first 4 that come off the shelf once you complete the test. But because communication is so important, we also allow people to edit this and either turn off or on some of those that come off the shelf that the assessment pops out, or you can write your own so that they're seen when someone clicks on your name in Outlook or Gmail or Slack. For example, I like to be text messaged. I do not like voicemails. Please contact me on my mobile phone. Don't send an email if it's important without the explanation in a purpose in that first sentence. I don't like searching for the reason why somebody's writing to me. I also don't like Skype. I prefer Zoom. So you can save that, and those are the things that will be seen by all employees at the company that you're connected with. It also shows how to motivate me, these quick tips, and how to influence me, things that confirm what sometimes people already know, Some other people who don't know that, and it's very insightful and gives them self-awareness, but also allows for these things to come up for collaboration tools like Slack, Teams, and other email. It'll show my life priorities that out of 25 things that I'm, very interested in this phase of my life in freedom, integrity, and friendship. And it has different reports you can print out in PDF form or send to people. It then drills down for all of my behaviors that led to my summary. It drills down to the 2 key behaviors that are most dominant of the 8. So it shows that I'm probably more stability oriented because I'm very deliberate versus decisive, very steady versus spontaneous. Tells me my strengths because of that, but also my opportunity areas. I might approach work in a controlled, deliberate manner. I like to strive to create predictability, but I sometimes take too long to make decisions. It's good for me to be aware of that, and I sometimes hold a grudge over time. Deliberate is a strength as well. I solve problems in controlled, organized, calculated manners, but sometimes I avoid confrontation in high pressure situations. The BMW continues with motivators. This is like your Hogan or Lominger, where it shows, except we don't have a dark side, it shows your 2 strengths in color. Also shows that, for example, I'm very knowledge versus practical. And as you see the words popping up, it actually tells you, so you don't need that IO psychologist or consultant holding your hand. You don't need an army of certified people in HR. Everyone, whether it's 10,000 people at Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages or thousands of people at Ashley Furniture, overnight, everybody has access to this information in a digestible way that's understandable and actionable. Again, my opportunity areas, all the way through the W of BMW, work energizers, where it shows you whether you are more systematic in terms of vibing well within a systematic environment, or if you get your energy from a creative environment or a combination thereof, like my example. So that's the individual assessment. We also give remote work tips that are instantly filled in. Once you finish your assessment, you get your personal profile, but also remote work tips. This was created during COVID in March of last year so that anybody, and most people had not worked remotely, they could see if it was more natural or not to work remote and how difficult it would be for them and where they could kind of be ready for that challenge. So for example, harder being here and easier being here, I was a 71. And you can imagine under behaviors, someone like me who's somewhat reflective, sometimes outgoing, well, the benchmark of someone who likes to work remote typically isn't outgoing. People who are outgoing, extremely outgoing, like to be around other people. And so it tells me what I was, and then recommendations for me, given that result, in terms of wellness, productivity, collaboration. I'll go down to an extreme example, helping, okay? People who are helping, extreme helping like me, we love helping others. We tend to be generous with our time and talent. Well, guess what? Remote work is solitary. So extended periods of isolation can lead to loss of enthusiasm. Ensure you stay engaged and energized by creating opportunities to work collaboratively and help your team accomplish shared goals. Productivity, you value altruism. So to stay productive in the remote work environment, you'll have to set healthy boundaries, meet your own commitments first, and then avoid by being sidetracked by others that you're helping. So that's the remote work. Again, I showed you the network earlier off the dashboard where I can either go alphabetical down and see people who I've already connected to, or if I'm like many people on Facebook with thousands of friends or connections, I can search by somebody, let's say Dan Johns, who I believe is in the system. I can see quickly if I'm going to have a meeting with Dan or call him that he's a supporter, an improviser, a traditionalist. I can understand him before reaching out in email or verbally, see our similarities, either get collaboration tips on a weekly basis or not, and do a side-by-side comparison. Here in the side-by-side comparison, as the top right corner, I can get a download of this comparison in PDF. It also gives me the highlights, the top 2 similarities and the top 2 differences of all of these things you see below between our personas, me on the left, Dan on the right, our behaviors, where it shows very distinct differences with this little caution flag where on the left, I'm very deliberate and he's very decisive. He is really a change-oriented person on how he behaves, and I'm much more stability-oriented. It is good for us to know these differences, whether we're onboarding someone, working on a new project together, or partnering across an organization with another group. In terms of motivators, our values, if you will, we're much more similar than we are different. In that area, sorry about that. In that area, we're very different. Where I am in the one area, I follow a personal sense of direction, and he is much more service oriented. And then all the way down to the work energizers, where it shows again that we're very different. A 35 here at the very top is a very big difference in working styles. And without a tool like this, there could be real potential conflict and friction. Or you might want that kind of difference of opinion and thinking to guarantee diversity of thought as you work together. Let's now move to how this tool can be used for a team leader. We've gone through the individual. Now we're going to go to a leader and how a leader can use it for culture management, specifically for teams. So here are different teams. You can create a team with people who've taken the assessment for a specific project, like Allison's project. You can see the culture for the customer success team, the finance team. This is a very important insight. All of you should leave with this one. If you leave with one thing today, a company does not have one culture everywhere. If they did, they would fail miserably. Sure, that sounds crazy, but think about it. If the way people behave and are motivated and they work, if that's the same in your finance and accounting team as your sales team, as your marketing team, you would fail miserably. As many American companies figured out in going in and setting up offices in Brazil, China, Thailand, Uganda, the cultures are very different there in how to work. If you have the same culture for Coca-Cola in Brazil, in South Africa, in England, you would actually fail miserably. And so you actually have culture that is different, literally on a team by team basis. And this platform helps you understand that as an organization. So let's drill it down into my company. This is demo data of 20 people, 19 actually, from 2 years ago. And I can see as a leader, my entire team. I can see and sort everyone, how they're similar or different to me. Here are the people most different from me, from Scott Craighead all the way down to Kelly Brown at 78. I can do, as we showed before, a comparison of the leader side by side. I can also see how that person compares with the team, if they're having difficulties with the team or they're not getting along. Here he's a 55%. You can download this to sit with him side by side, or if you're remote, to go through digitally over Zoom, but it will show the behaviors of this person, where the team sits. Here are 5 people on that team, and where Scott sits. So let's say maybe, oh, that's me. Let's say Kelly is having a real problem working with Scott. There's Scott. Well, you can pull this up and say, hey, it's not that Kelly or Scott don't like each other. Okay, Scott is really decisive. He's actually a salesperson. Kelly is a marketing person, but who does research and analysis. She's much more deliberate. Neither is right or wrong. They were hired for different roles in the company, but when they work together, there could be some friction. And so it's good to know that there's that difference. So you have the system showing these differences and similarities throughout all 14 areas, highlighting not only differences, but similarities as well. And then highlighting in those differences how 2 people can work better together, or the difference with the team. So that's my team members. Here's the first mapping of culture that you'll see on this platform. This is the team view, where I can see the people chart, where I see each person and where their dominant trait is. I can see a diversity chart where it plots everyone along a scale of 15 here at the bottom each way. It shows big bubbles for where we have a lot of people, and one bubble where there's one person. So if I had a project where I needed the most decisive person on the team, I'd want to pick Gabby. If I wanted a project with very creative people, freeform people, think ways of challenging the status quo, Scott would be that person I'd want to pick. And so you can go through, use this to understand your strengths and your weaknesses, just like an individual, but for the entire team. You can see it as a bar chart as well, not just the people chart with pictures, and the diversity chart by bar. And like you saw on your landing homepage dashboard, a bubble chart. You can get all of this quickly as a leader. Again, you give this tool to 20 people on your team, and that day you're seeing all of these insights, all these behavioral strengths and opportunity areas, and your motivational strengths and opportunity areas for the team. Okay, as well as all 3 of these, B, M, and W. You get to see the life priorities for your entire team and where people sit under each. Achievement is by far the largest thing why people are working here and what's important to them. 7 really do care about wealth. And so maybe at the end of the year, these people, a bonus might be more important than these people who like adventure might want to do a company paid vacation to some adventure tour in Costa Rica. These people, instead of a bonus, might want to get developed and look for a longer career. These people, when you look at the new year review of their experience when you're onboarding them or negotiating, they like creativity. They like maybe a job that's different every week, every month. You might want to alter the job slightly so that you can fill and scratch that creativity itch. I can see quickly what the personas are of my entire company. So here you can see the top 5 personas with 75% of my company 2 years ago being Mavericks. That was great for a startup, but not great 2 years ago when, well, 6 years ago, but 2 years ago, after 4 years, we needed more than just Mavericks. We needed some results drivers, some supporters, some dynamos. And so we started to hire for this and train people to be more like this and everything in between. That is important as you grow as a mid-sized company to be able to change your culture and not get stuck on one thing. You can take snapshots. You can download a detailed report of your team, a team culture workshop to work with your team to help them understand where they are. You can see the snapshots and when they were taken and what the culture looks like over time. You can see the remote work for the entire team and see that we are 52 where you can see which employees might have more difficulty working remotely, 36, 38, 39, to the ones who can work remotely very easily, like Kelly, Lucas, and Alex. You take all this information and you start to understand that this is a really powerful culture management tool where you can also set a culture to where you want to go and align that culture of intention with your current team. So that is called, let's see here, under groups. Okay, under groups, you can do the culture of the entire company, like Humantelligence, or let's say Coca-Cola, and break out all the divisional cultures, and you can compare 2 groups. So for instance, I can compare my high performing sales team or members with my low performing sales team and run this analytic tool without calling anybody, going to a consultant. And now internally, you have access to all this information where you can see either a bubble chart, you can clearly see that the high performers in your sales organization, about 112 of them, are extremely decisive, 35%. And the opposite to decisive is deliberate. So people who fail, about a third of the people who fail, are dominant, deliberate in their behaviors. And a third of the people who succeed are dominant, decisive. Well, you might want to now focus on these to develop them to be decisive. And you could put plans in place to make them more higher performers, these 256 salespeople who are low performers. And when you hire now in the future, you can hire not for deliberate people, but use the tool to hire for decisive. Also, high performers 1 in 3 are extreme outgoing versus reflective. Same things. So you can start to use this information to improve performance of sales team members, analysts, manufacturing workers, to understand what drives performance. You can see it here if that's more clear for you, where they plot even on a diversity curve where people plot. It seems like there's big chunks, 28, 28, and 28 here. You can do the same for motivators and see that the low performers are very helping and very knowledge-based, whereas the high performers definitely are self-reliant, the opposite to helping. Now, knowledge, there are 1 in 10 that do like knowledge as an extreme. So maybe you don't use that as something to force people out in the interview process. However, financial security, clearly 1 in 3 are of your high performers really look at the potential for financial returns. No surprise, it's sales. People who are dominant service seem to not quite perform as well. You can create custom profiles where you can create the core values of your company or the core values of your team. Okay, and you can go through and turn on or off and say, turn it on. I want a team that's more deliberate. I want a team that's more outgoing. So you go through this tool and you set what you want for each one across these 14 areas. If my team was all helpers before, now I want a little more self-reliant. If everybody was too not knowledge-based, now I want more practical. Or leave it in the middle if I want it to be a balance. And then you save it. And so now you have that profile saved for what you're looking for on your team and how you can train each person on your team to be that for the future culture, as well as to hire for it. So I'm going to go back in. So these are all different views of the platform. Lastly, I'm going to go into Talent Fit for recruiting. This is where the talent acquisition team can use the tool for positions that they're hiring for. Okay, these are all the different positions. Let's go into Chief Technology Officer. And so now when you're hiring, you can, and by the way, once it's up and running, you can see the applicants in different stages, and you can see how they fit with the manager, the team, and whatever target. For example, that target culture that I just set up earlier, what I want. Now, we've made it dummy proof for talent acquisition. I was a partner at Heidrick and Struggles and Korn Ferry for several years. And the last thing you want, and I've managed several talent acquisition people at large companies, is for the recruiters to try to figure out what culture is. That just does not work. It's very subjective. So here, the recruiter simply puts in the benchmarks for what the assessment, the psychometric tool is going to be looking for each candidate. And we've integrated this into iCIMS, Taleo, SuccessFactors, Workday. So you can actually send out the assessment through your own applicant tracking system and get all the same things I'm showing you here on our platform. So you don't have to go to a different system. But you set it up with the manager's name, and that by default puts in the current culture. It puts in that target culture that I created, that I showed you. So 3 of the 4 comparisons are already set up, and then you can set up a 4th one if you want. And once you've done that, you can go in and see the candidates, okay, and where they are in the spectrum with the manager, and the comparison with that manager for each of the applicants, at least in the new applicant phase here. You can see which ones are aligned with that target culture, which is that target team culture that you want to hire for. Okay, and so very, very helpful to save time so that you can get straight to the people, for example, that are really super high, like Connie, in what the target culture is, but who the manager might not move forward if they just use their own subjective thought, as well as the team. If this company or this team is trying to change their culture, then Connie would not be a great fit with the manager or the team because they're the same for the last 5 years. They're looking for something different. They're looking for this target team culture, which is here, and they're looking for people who are high green there. So you get rid of the subjectivity of the past to hire more objectively based on data. And so now you can go in and actually view a profile with, let's say, Connie and the manager, and you can do a side by side and see how that relationship would be and where there might be friction. But that's okay. Everybody in the company is very deliberate. You actually want someone to be decisive. Otherwise, things will never get done. You want more of a leader. You don't want, someone who's always cooperating around shared goals. We are looking for a leader, etc. And so you can do that. You can see Connie versus the team to see how Connie is going to compare with the team. You can also, for all these views, you can download the results. Right? Connie's extremely helping. The team's all self-reliant. Connie's very belonging. She is going to help bring a team effort and a belonging sense to this group of very self-reliant, unique mavericks, and that was the purpose and the intention of using Humantelligence to hire for a new culture. You can see how we've done if you go to our website, for instance, and a lot of our clients show the culture of the company. Go to Humantelligence about our culture, and as we hire and fire people in our company, this actually updates automatically. And so now you can see today, if you recall, our culture 2 years ago was all change oriented. We were about 80% change. As you can see, we've either trained or hired people to be more on the left. This is how powerful this platform is, that you can now change the culture from being change oriented to a more stable company with scale like us to being stability oriented. And by the way, you can see all the same versions of this on the internet too. In terms of motivators, if you recall, we were 78% innovative, but we didn't have any people in belonging, no people in order, no people in supporting or helping. So we were able to balance our team through hiring better. And so these are all great examples of how we drank our own Kool-Aid to use this tool. Creative, we were like 70, 80%. Again, now we're balanced and a little more creative. We're still a startup and creating amazing products that are innovative in the industry. That's why we win so many awards. So we don't want to lose that, but now we can hire parallel to that. And so you can use this tool for all those things. We have an interview guide where you can download the questions, where you can see Connie. Where Connie sits naturally is very belonging. What you want in this role, which was already plugged in when I set it up, we want someone who's unique. Well, it's not that you don't use a tool like this to not hire. You use a tool like this to say, look, we like Connie's resume. She seems great, but one of the qualities we're looking for is that we're looking for a person who's motivated by being unique, not so much belonging. Well, here's a question, and there's a question that comes up that allows the interviewer to ask a question to get to whether Connie knows how to be unique. Describe a team project you worked on, your role, and your contributions to meeting the objectives. For example, Connie's practical. They need someone who's more knowledge-based. Have you ever completed a research project or be given an assignment related to a topic where you were unfamiliar with? Can you explain your approach and the results? So our IO psychologist team created hundreds, if not, I think thousands of questions for anybody who's applying for a role and needs to be asked about where they're strong or where they're potentially weaker. It also points out all the opportunity areas for that person relative to what that role requires. I will stop there. That is the end of the demo of the three. Actually, there's actually one more point. I've shown you culture management. I've shown you talent fit for recruiting. We also have a product called EQ Everywhere, where we've integrated it into Outlook and Gmail. And so I'm going to show you how that works. So if you look at Outlook or Gmail, let's see here. I'm gonna just reopen Outlook. But this is the daily use of psychometrics where no certifications needed, where it's very simple and very actionable every single day. And all of our clients love this module. So you click a button like Coca-Cola, 10,000 employees did. Well, their admin clicked it. And once you click that button, everybody at the company will have these two little buttons. Where are they? I think I'm in the wrong. Give me one. Company server. I'm doing it through my phone right now, so now it should work. Show you is EQ Everywhere. It's connected to Gmail, Outlook, and so these two buttons just popped up here. That's as simple as an admin at your company clicking a button, giving it to all 500, 5,000, 50,000 employees, and the next day everyone will have those two buttons. And what does that give you? It gives you the following. It gives you the ability to open email, write to somebody in the company or two people in a company, but let's say you're writing to one person in the company. You click on talent profile right there in your email. It gives you access to all the tips on how to compare with that person side by side, which I've shown you what that person's personas are. And before writing to this person, you might not know how to communicate with them, that they're open to practical, constructive ideas. He likes to, and this is something he wrote, because this is not our system from the test. He prefers direct speak, don't around the bush. So Dan, here is the proposal for your review. I noticed that you like directness. You know, this will determine, whether we fire 4 people or not in our division. Please give me your concrete feedback as a finance person, right? He likes relating. I might say, hey, and P.S. Congrats on the Steelers winning the football game the other day. So that's how you can use it for motivating tips, influencing tips, communication tips, and even learning styles. What are Dan's learning styles if I'm doing L&D, learning and development and training? You can also use this for meetings. So if I'm about to jump into a meeting, let's say there's a very important meeting here. I click on that meeting, and anyone in my company who's taken the assessment, I can click on the culture analytics button. And right now in that meeting window pane, it shows me the culture of the meeting, and it shows me who are my cautious and reflective people. So maybe if I want to be more inclusive in a meeting, I let these people speak first, or make sure I save time at the end after the outgoing and spontaneous and freeform people speak, to give these shy people more time to be able to answer the question. If I'm going to assign something for the next morning that's urgent, these are the people who are very decisive, who would enjoy that. This is not the person I'd want to give an action item to out of a meeting that's due that same night or the next day. I can see what motivates people. And if there's going to be a brainstorming session to push back on a process that nobody likes, well, pick the unique people and the freedom people. They're probably going to come up with very vocal ideas of what we could do, and maybe have them lead the process flows between meetings. Lastly, I can see in a meeting that, for example, the work environment, I can see that, hold on a second. I can see that this person, Victor, is very structured, while most of the team, the other 90% of the people in the meeting, let's say 85%, are very creative. That's good for Victor to know if he's about to present to these people, or even as a participant. So you can see how this tool is very helpful in understanding a team meeting, a group meeting, a functional meeting, before you go into it, whether you're a leader or a participant. With that, I am now finished with the demo, and I turn it back to Vita for the last Q&A section.
Great, thank you for that demo, Juan. I'm gonna go ahead and make myself the presenter here. We have one last data slide for you, Juan, based on the benefits you can expect from that demo, and then we'll get on to the Q&As. This is just the very last slide.
Yeah, so some of the benefits you can get from a platform like this is reduced turnover, improved collaboration, increased productivity, and employee engagement. Most of our clients have made it through COVID quite well, and I think part of it was because they were able to transition to a remote and hybrid work environment with our platform without missing a beat and outperforming their competitors. So whether you're hybrid, remote, or back to normal, a platform like this for culture, for hiring, for collaboration, and for inclusion every day, not just once a year, but every day platform, please consider Humantelligence. We'd be honored to set up a meeting to show you more of the platform and see how it could help with your needs.
Yeah, with that, based on this presentation, the next step in your culture transformation is reaching out to us. I'll put this link directly in the chat, or you can reach out to any of us via email. And with that, we'll move on to the Q&A session. So Juan, for this Q&A, we're just going to take one question because we are close to the end time, but it actually is based around remote and hybrid work. because of the presentation. Also, when I mentioned earlier that we're all remote employees. So based on being remote at Humantelligence, Juan, what is your most used feature to improve communications among employees who don't see each other in the traditional sense?
Yeah, I mean, by far the tool that every company uses for remote and hybrid, which is the most helpful, is that EQ Everywhere tool where you get all these psychometric insights after your employees have taken the test. It's just a link that your head of HR or CEO sends to all employees. Your tech IT admin just then clicks a button in the back end on Outlook or Teams or Gmail, and literally the next morning, everyone in your company who's taken it, they go into Outlook or Slack or any collaboration tool, click on a name or click on a meeting, and it'll give you those insights on how to motivate, influence, communicate, and work and collaborate better. That by far is the best tool, not just that we have, but in the marketplace, and kind of explains why we're winning so many awards. That really makes working joyful and collaborative at a whole nother level today in remote work. And even if you're at the same company, if it's big enough where you're communicating with people that you don't know.
All right, great. Thank you for that answer. And I also want to thank you for being our presenter today, Juan, and talking to everybody on today's webinar. And with that, I think we're going to bring the webinar to a close. So thank you for everybody attending, and hopefully you can do something productive with the couple of minutes you got back from us ending early.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Vita. Cheers.